Hey yo, what's poppin' guys? So, I thought it was time to follow up on a video I did a while back titled the top 5 Dragon Ball Z Figuarts, or my personal favorite top 5 anyways. And I thought I'd follow this up with the polar opposite and talk a little bit about my opinion on the top 5 worst Dragon Ball Z Figuarts as of March 2018. Now before we get to number 5, I just want to say that choosing the worst Figuarts is like choosing your least favorite food. You feel me on that? So here's some criteria that we're going by for these choices, because I know obviously there's going to be some controversy and disagreement, but I just wanted to give you guys a 411 on my choices. So for our criteria for choosing these top 5 worst Dragon Ball Z Figuarts, here's the criteria. Of course, we're going to consider overall appearance, the sculpt, and perhaps the biggest criteria here is the level of disappointment upon the release of the figure itself, and lastly, how well the figure has aged in comparison to newer releases. But again, at the end of the day, when you compare Figuarts figures to the Dragon Ball Z figures we had prior to 2011, they're all great. Now with that said, let's get into number 5. Alright, so coming in at number 5, we have Whis. So, are you surprised to see a 2.0 on this list? Are you even more surprised that it's Whis? Let me explain. Now first of all, I'd like to say that the colors, sculpt, and accessories that Whis came with are all great. I mean, I don't know what else they could have added to improve on his release other than maybe a pudding cup because the man comes with a spoon, but nothing to have the spoon with. Now with Whis, in terms of the criteria of why he made the list, it's more so because of the disappointment with the figure in hand. Let me explain. So although the figure is really pleasing aesthetically, there's one huge problem with this figure, and it's the skirt. The man is trapped in it. Like seriously, in theory, Figuarts is supposed to be a line all about posing capabilities, right? And while Whis isn't the most acrobatic character, he can definitely move, as evidenced by his time training with the Saiyans. And this is where this figure seriously takes a dive. Now, I mean, you can remove the skirt, but you might not like what you find underneath. I mean, is this Whis or Jack Skellington? Now, one thing I'm wondering, because I don't want to give Tamashii a hard time for this, but I'm wondering if anything could be done to articulate the robes in the lower portions, somewhat akin to how they did Broly's robes. And honestly, I think the answer is maybe, but it might have made the figure look a little bit worse, so it's probably better off just the way it is. And lastly, points for making the character as anime accurate as possible, but these feet make it real hard to pose Whis in elaborate poses and get him to actually stand up for a while on the shelf without some sort of support. All in all, Whis comes in at number 5. Alright, so following Whis at number 4 is Premium Color Vegeta. Now I can already hear some of y'all going, Vegeta? What? No, you can't! Hey, I hear you, but people were demanding a re-release of Super Saiyan Vegeta for so long, and even I was as excited as the next guy to finally have a copy of this guy in hand. But you want to know why this Vegeta made the list? Because as far as I know, Super Saiyan hair is gold and yellow, and this right here is like someone went to McDonald's, ordered a 6-piece, and got too much honey mustard on the side. Like really, like overkill on the gloss much? I mean, what were they thinking here? I mean, I get that it had to be different from the original Vegeta, but still, this is a little bit too much gloss. Like, let me grab the other Vegeta head sculpts just to show you what I mean. Alright, so technically we have 3 different 1.0 Vegeta body molds and head sculpts, and it's pretty cool that we can swap each other out interchangeably. So let's take the Resurrection F armor for example. Here we have him with a base form head, which is arguably one of the best looks with this body sculpt. Now next we have Super Saiyan Blue, of course, which goes with the Resurrection F body sculpt, and I know that this is super glossy metallic, but it works. And finally we have the Super Saiyan here, which, I don't know man, something about it just looks off. And the only way it works, in my opinion, is if you shine a ton of light on it just to make it look like, you know, he has a glowing Super Saiyan aura around him. Otherwise, it just looks like honey mustard, man. Can't get over that. Now aside from this, not that the original came with any accessories at all, but you know, he doesn't really come with anything unique to Vegeta in terms of hands or anything like that, and it's pretty bare bones, man. And I mean, compared to the 2.0 Vegeta we have now, the faces just plain suck. And with all of that was enough reason for me to throw the premium Prince of all Saiyans at number 4 on this list. Alright, so at number 3 we have Trunks. Now, first, back when this was the only Trunks figure in existence and it was impossible and uber expensive to get, I was happy to actually have this Trunks in hand. But as time went on and we got other Trunks figures released, I came to despise this figure more and more in comparison. The first point is that we do not receive all of the original accessories that the initial Trunks came out with. For example, we don't get the thumbs up hand. Like, how you gonna do that, man? But perhaps my biggest point for this figure coming in at number 3 on this list is much like his father before him, the honey mustard glossy hair. I mean, under the right lighting, it looks okay. It works for a glow effect. When you take it out of that context, it just looks silly, man. And I mean, when you compare it to both of the Trunks figures out now in 2.0 form, it gets blown back hard. Now, aside from his glossy mop top, the other issue I have with him is what I like to call broke man's articulation, because you try to move him any which way, crap will start falling off. Don't even get me started on like the sword itself. I've heard numerous horror stories of this peg easily snapping off, rendering the sword pretty much unusable to peg into his back anymore. And what's more is when you actually have this on the figure, this strap seldom has the ability to connect and wrap around successfully like that. It's more so just to be used as like a suitcase or something. And finally, the face just looks so weird now in comparison to the 2.0s. It just looks like it's blocky and unfinished at this point. And so does the rest of the figure. So Trunks, here's to your spot at number 3. Alright, so now for the second to worst figure art I think exists to date, and it's another Saiyan. You might have already guessed who it is. And I'm starting to feel like you needed 5 arms and some tentacles for Tamashii to have taken you a little bit more seriously back then. Nonetheless, we got Gohan at number 2. Now understandably, this figure has its flaws, as it was one of the earliest to be released. And this is pretty much the opposite of Vegeta in terms of hands and accessories. I mean, he came with a great deal, he came with a cape, and he came with Super Saiyan 1 and 2 hair sculpts. Now, the thing is, he is just ugly, man. Like this Gohan looks like he's either anemic or he spends too much time playing fighters inside. And what's more is that I get that these are the manga colors, but they just make the figure look so dull and dried out. Tell me that this doesn't look better. Now, moving on from the aesthetics, another thing that annoys me about this figure is just that it's so hard to get it to stand up. His joints aren't even that loose, it's just they're probably just too small to hold the figure up without you having to jam them into each other. And on top of that, I hate the small hand pegs. I mean, other figures like Android 17 and 18 have those small pegs too, but they're not ugly. Sorry Gohan, you're number 2. So, number 1. Who's taking home the trophy for ugliest figure tonight? Well, it's the king of the spray-on tans himself, Super Saiyan 3 Goku. Yo, seriously, if I wanted to end the video right here, I would just say that if you ever wanted to have a figure that represented the crappy animation in those first few episodes of Super, this is the figure for you, my friend. This figure was so bad that I not only don't have it, but I never had a desire to pick it up even when I got into the line. Now, the argument behind this figure's look is that, oh, he's glowing when he first appeared, and that's what we were going for here. Yo, I don't know about that, Tamashii. I mean, glowing is one thing, but looking like the figure was left in the sun too long is another. And what's weird are the lines under his eyes. I mean, it makes him look so out of place. It makes him look more like the early Dragon Ball art instead of the Buu Saga style. Needless to say, the 2.0 is way better. And this is the only legit figure art that I think looks like a bootleg version of himself. You can't top that, man. Alright guys, so there you have it, my top 5 picks for the worst figure arts to date. I'm more than sure there's other opinions out there, and as always, I'd love to hear them. And like I said, it was pretty tough to make a list because Figuarts are a pretty good quality line in general compared to other DBZ action figures before their time. But nonetheless, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and until the next time, I hope the best of todays and the worst of tomorrows. Peace. Okay, so you guys knew it was only a matter of time till we covered this guy, the OG rebellious Saiyan of Dragon Ball Z, Bardock. So a lot of people want a Bardock figure, and I mean, the character has soared in popularity since his introduction back in the 1990s. and this is evidenced by his prominent role in the Xenoverse franchise. And now he's in the first DLC package for Fighters. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little surprised that him and Broly were being added so soon, but hey, I'm not complaining by any means. Just pleasantly surprised is all. Maybe it's because Tamashi's been constantly yanking my chain by showing previews of figures and then coming out with an entirely different release.